Hello YouTube, I'm David with the David West channel. There is no shortage of tulip poplar in upstate South Carolina. This area here is just full of them. So the bark makes some really good tinder. Really some of the best tinder around. And peels off pretty easily when it gets to this stage. See if I can hold it with my elbow. So, oh, and I want to show you this too. It is not uncommon for the limbs to fall out of a tulip poplar tree and stab themselves in the ground like that. Usually not right at the base of the tree though. But let me gather up some of this bark, then we'll get on the fire table and I'll show you how to break it down. I thought that I'd stop and get my walk in before I get back to the house and get on that fire table. I had anticipated using the smart water bottle for a solar ignition of the tulip poplar bark. Look what I just found. I mean, if this bag is good, you can see how much of the white is worn off of it. So I'm not sure that this bag will hold the water, but let's try to make a solar ignition with this and maybe use the smart water bottle and an empty BIC. We need to get on back to the house. We got a lot to do. All right, here's our 3 fire makers for today. We'll do an empty BIC ignition, smart water bottle solar ignition, and a Ziploc bag solar ignition. Now, the boys next door have just started cranking up the little motorcycles, so I might have to delay this until they get done. Here is one of the many branches that I collected today. I just take my fingernails. And pull it right off. Now, all branches do not give up their tulip poplar bark this easy. So it's nice to find one like this to where it comes right off. So now we've got great tinder. We've got some great wood that I will not have to process. Let's start off with the empty BIC ignition. And I've shown you this many times before, but I take and break it over my finger, pull this part off here, break it over my finger again, pull this part off again, and just repeat. Sometimes, if you're lucky, a big long piece of inner bark will just come right off. Usually that's not the case. Usually, if you try to pull one long length off of there, it'll keep breaking over and over again. So we're going to save the outer bark to fuel the fire and the inner bark for the tinder. This is what we ended up with. Now that outer bark right there is going to make very good fuel for the fire. Let's go ahead and process this up. Just going to buff it out in our hands, break it down, tear it apart, and there'll be some nice fine fibers. It's a shame that the wind is blowing because all of these fibers right here would be good to gather up and put in the center of the tinder bundle. So let's work on it a few minutes and buff it out and see what we come up with. Good stuff. Tulip poplar bark is the best tinder, in my opinion. Now let's try it with that empty BIC. You want to take a piece of this. It's kind of nicely processed down, but still sort of stuck together. Roll it into a tube so we can get it up underneath the striker wheel. And usually something tinder as good as this you can strike off on your hand. And then, like I said, all this otter bark would be great to fuel the fire. It's going to burn hot. It's going to burn for a long time. And then we'll put some of this tulip poplar on there too. Wow. Poplar's tougher than I thought it was. Very easy fire to make when you're using tulip poplar bark, an empty BIC, and just some of the tulip poplar wood. We'll wait for the boys next door to get done with their motorcycles, even if we have to finish it tomorrow. Hopefully there'll be nice sun like this, and we'll go ahead and get to those two solar ignitions, the Ziploc bag that we found, and one of my favorites, smart water bottle solar ignition. All right, y'all. Appreciate you joining me on this one. We'll catch you on the next one.